Now that the hype has sort of died down from the announcement of the 4 heroes coming in 2019, I can talk about this without any strong feelings toward the Vortiger or Warhammer Viking or any of the others. Ever since the reveal, I've been seeing more and more comments talking about how releasing new heroes will just add on to the issues this game already has, and that Ubisoft is just trying to milk for honor one last time and don't really care for the game anymore. And of course, the comments letting me know that the Wulin are undoubtedly the worst heroes added to the game. And honestly, out of the 10 heroes added to this game, I can see where you're coming from. The Wulin are my least favorite new heroes, barring Shinobi. Shinobi is still the worst addition to the game in my opinion. I really don't like him. And I don't think that they're really horrible because of their playstyles. I just don't like the way they turned out. Centurion may have released as a complete monster, but you have to admit he's really stylish. So is Gladiator, Highlander, Shaman, and Aramusha. All of them. I think that they all turned out as better heroes in the Wulin, but maybe that's just because I like the original factions a little more. Anyways, there's been some heat heading towards the new heroes or Ubisoft, and I get it. The players who still play this game have to deal with the issues, and they want them addressed as soon as possible. And since we can all assume that all the new heroes aren't that close to being finished yet, there's going to be some focus put into them. I do think that Ubi will try and focus on making everyone happy though, and I know how strange that sounds, but after 2 years, I think they may finally get it right in what could be their final hurrah. Now, I know that the Wulin are hit or miss for some people. Either they're completely terrible or they're not that bad. I hardly see anyone except the Wulin with open arms, but I don't think we should judge the newer heroes or the ones coming out from what we got with Marching Fire. It's looking like all 4 of these new heroes will be heavies, whereas the Wulin have one of each archetype or class, one Vanguard, one Assassin, one Heavy, and one Hybrid. And I really don't think Ubi would make another hero like Zhang Jun, or at least I hope they don't. As much as the Wulin have made their mark, I think that they were necessary, as the game really needed new content. Some people are talking about the timing, about how Marching Fire released just 2.5 months ago, and now they're selling us a brand new season pass. And when I think of it, yeah, the timing is close, but we didn't get a season pass after season 4 like we thought we would. Instead, we got our budget off-brand Operation Health in seasons 5, 6, and 7, which, when I look at it, started off with good intentions and then went downhill after season 5. Marching Fire was pretty much in place of a season pass to me, and technically had more value than our year 3 pass. I don't think we can be mad at the timing. I don't really mind the price either, and honestly, I'd rather have it this way than to wait until next October or something and get all 4 of the heroes at once again. Having another few seasons of no content wouldn't be too great, as a lot of us are already feeling this drag that happens toward the end of a season. I know that I'd be more entertained by a new hero than 2 half-baked reworks. If the reworks Ubi delivered in seasons 6 and 7 were more complete or felt more like full-blown reworks, I wouldn't feel that way. But after the Peacekeeper, Valkyrie Warden, and Orochi reworks, I don't know if I'd want another season of quote-unquote improvements. I know that there are still things that need to be done and that there are still things that need to be improved upon, but I feel like the heroes are in a better spot now. I think that more than anything, players want the weaker heroes to be worked on. I honestly think that's what's most important, and then after that, tone down some of the stronger heroes. I really think after that, there's not too much more that needs to be done in a general sense. There's still things that should be added to the game, most notably a spectator mode and some other way to keep players invested during dry times like now. But other than that, I do think the game is in a pretty decent spot. I think the problems most people have really have to do with a specific part of a hero and not really the whole hero, like how Berserker has way too much hyper armor for his lights to do so much damage, or Zhang Jun's admittedly broken animations, or Warden's shoulder bash and Konk's shield bash, and of course 400 millisecond lights, but we all know that nothing will ever be done about those. I think the only thing that would stop talks about 400 millisecond lights would be bringing consoles up to 60 frames per second, which again will never happen. Most of the complaints have basically ironed themselves out as players have gotten better and learned to deal with the problems that they face. For example, I used to get asked all the time to talk about how broken Highlander was and how he had a 50-50 that guaranteed way too much damage. But nowadays, I see that complaint maybe once a week, whereas before it was something I saw multiple times a day. People learned how to deal with that. They learned how to escape and punish it, even though 40 damage is pretty steep. People also learned how to deal with heroes like Shaman after her nerfs and realized that she's really not that bad anymore, and I think that's great. Other than that, I'd love to see some changes to how the attack indicators work, since they're pretty buggy right now. Sometimes the guard indicator will just light up as though somebody's attacking you from the side while you're in a fight, when it's someone who's way off in the distance fighting someone else, or how the unblockable indicator will just show up if you're fighting near the commander in Breach even if he's not doing anything. I'd also love to see 600 millisecond lights have something done to them at some point, like having a property tied to them or something, because right now they're just not really worth anything. Anyways, I do think the game is in a pretty solid state right now. Obviously it's better than it's ever been. Will the new heroes add more problems to the game? Yes, without a doubt in my mind, but with it being just one hero added, I don't think it'll be that bad, as Ubi can just focus on one hero rather than 4 like they had to do with Marching Fire and the Wulin and Breach. And I'm sure that Shugoki rework won't be perfect either. Actually, I know it won't be perfect since it sounds like they're messing around with the way some of his attacks work. I'm really hoping that they learn from their past. With the Wulin, it seems like they were really careful. With the year 1 heroes, they just sort of released them and we had to deal with the consequences. Centurion was deservedly stripped of his power, but only after a few months. Shinobi had his kick stripped away, Shaman had a variety of nerfs, but these were all after the fact. The Wulin went through some player testing first, which is highly appreciated because the Wulin were a little different than they are now. They listened to some feedback and made changes before the Wulin released, and they turned out pretty well. For example, Jang Jun had those 600 millisecond lights, and Shaolin's key stance took stamina, which were both pretty bad for each hero. And for those of you who hate how the Wulin play now, think about how they would be without 400 millisecond lights. Say they were bumped up to 500 millisecond lights. Would they really be that bad to you? I think that Nusha wouldn't receive so much negativity if she didn't have her chained 400 millisecond lights. I also think that Tiandi would be viewed differently. Jang Jun not so much because he still does a little too much damage, and Shaolin wouldn't really be as annoying for some people, although he'd still have his kick after key stance, which seems to be his biggest problem for some of you guys. The main complaint about the Wulin as a whole is that they can get away with light spam and change the game to this R1 simulator, but if you take that complaint away, I don't think that the Wulin would be viewed so negatively, since now 400 millisecond lights are just a part of the game. I highly doubt this will happen, but I hope that they run some sort of public testing on each of the Harbinger heroes as well. I think it will really avoid any unnecessary problems. I'm not really sure what they could add to a heavy hero to really hurt the game, other than a fast annoying bash or unnecessary fast light attacks. A regular old 500 millisecond light will be enough. I know without a doubt he'll use the shield. I mean, it's huge and it's serrated, so it's coming, but I don't think it'll be anything too annoying or overbearing. If they're not going to do any sort of public testing, private testing is fine too, as long as they listen to the players that get their hands on the new content. If I remember correctly, I think they used to invite extremely skilled players to test things out before releasing content. Did they listen to these players? I have no idea, but I feel like they may not have. Do I think that after the new year begins that Ubi will suddenly change their ways and start working on the game immediately and push out update after update? Of course not. I don't think so. I do believe that they'll speed it up a bit, seeing as I really do think this is the last year of support for Honor. The last time I said this, a bunch of you guys pointed out to me that Rainbow Six has a complete edition as well. And I mean, yeah, it does, but Rainbow Six also exploded in popularity and had its whole comeback, creating the whole question, will For Honor have a Siege-like comeback? For Honor never exploded or made its comeback. Its explosion was release day. That was the most popular For Honor had ever been. Then they had another chance at E3 and sort of blew it with how long we had to wait. And then after that, they had their chance when the game came out for free and a ridiculous amount of people downloaded it and they left. It had about 210,000 concurrent players on Steam alone, which is an insane amount of players for any game. But that number dropped quickly, and now we're resting at about 7,000 to 9,000 players at any given time on Steam, which aren't bad numbers by any mean. It's certainly not a dead game, but for comparison, Rainbow Six sits at anywhere from 60,000 players to 100,000 players at any given time. And I know that they're two entirely different games with two entirely different audiences, with the only thing linking them being that they're both Ubisoft titles. For Honor just isn't for everyone, and that's okay. And people always talk about how it isn't friendly on beginners, but neither is Rainbow Six, and look at how well it's doing. Anyways, For Honor isn't as successful as Rainbow Six is. I think it would be dumb for Ubi to stop supporting a game like Siege, even after their complete edition. But For Honor wasn't as successful, and I think it's time to start working on another title rather than keep trying to focus on this one. I think that a brand new title would get people talking about For Honor again and maybe even excited for it. Last thing I want to say is that if you're looking at it from Ubi's point of view, if you create new heroes, you can make some more money. Ubi is a business after all, and during seasons 5 through 7, the rework seasons, the only thing worth buying was the content of the week. You know, the new effects, emotes, and of course everyone's favorite, the battle outfits. A $30 year pass with 4 interesting heroes can sell a lot more than a Shigoki rework with a battle outfit. Sure, the reworks may cater to more dedicated players and the existing community, but someone on the outside won't know the difference between weak old Shigoki and the buff new Shigoki. However, they can definitely tell if they like the new intense Viking with a Warhammer. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. I wanted to wait and talk about this just so that there'd be no hype involved. Now that we're not getting any info on new heroes for a while, there's not much to look forward to in terms of For Honor stuff. Actually, there's not much going on in terms of games as a whole right now since we're about to go into that drought. I do want to hear you guys' opinion though, so talk to me down in the comments about anything I talked about in this video, and let me know how you feel now that you know what kind of content we're getting. And as always, if you agree with me or just like the video, feel free to leave a like and sub, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.